What was you doing there?
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank all of you that are here with us today in the commission chambers. I'd like to go ahead and start our meeting today. We have actually two meetings we're going to handle in today's session. So just be aware, we're going to start off with a public hearing. We're going to then discuss the Community Development Block Grant, and our administrator will present that information to us. And that is a subject that is open to public comment. We will then close, and then we will reconvene for our commission meeting, and then move forward with our commission meeting agenda items. So just to be aware, two separate meetings, a public hearing and then commission meeting back to back today. So just heads up on that. Appreciate your time and being here with us. It's a little warmer. I really bulked up this morning and I realized the sun is coming out. So again, yate hapene, buenos dias, right? And we'll go ahead and get started at 11:08 a.m. for the record. I'll move on to the next item for the public hearing agenda. Roll call for our public hearing. Commissioner Adams, are you here?
Buongiorno, I am here.
Oh. Buongiorno, amici.
Commissioner Adams, thank you. Commissioner Stubbs,
I here.
you're here. Commissioner Harvey, I think I'm here, so that's a quorum. 3 present for our public hearing. We'll next go to our invocation. So let's see. I'd like to ask for some help if anyone is courageous enough to provide our invocation for our public hearing. That'd be awesome. Well, it'll be tied to our commission meeting as well.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. You are awesome.
Heavenly Father, as we approach Thee today as a county commission and citizens of the county, we ask Thee to bless our efforts in this meeting this day, that we might make good decisions that will benefit our citizens. We're grateful for the positions that we hold. We're grateful for our employees. We ask Thee to bless and protect them. Bless those who are in harm's way, those who provide emergency services and enforcement of the laws of this great state and county. We're so grateful for the beautiful county that we live in and the beauty that we enjoy and the resources that we have. We ask Thee to bless us to be mindful of our stewardship here. We're mindful of this important meeting that we're conducting today, and we ask Thee to watch over and protect our citizens. Bless those who might need Thy blessings or might be ill or sick. We ask Thee to bless us in our efforts. We pray in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Very good. Moving on to our next item, let's go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead us. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on with our item for public hearing. Mac, I'll go ahead and turn the floor to you for a call.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so we'll have to have a motion to go into the public hearing after this presentation. But this is the first Community Development Block Grant public hearing for the county. This allows citizens throughout the county, organizations throughout the county, to kind of tell us what they want us to apply for through the CDGB process this year. Just going through the sheets on here, you have the Southeastern is going to be allocated. Let me find it here to make sure. $778,284, of which entities people can apply for CDBG eligible projects. In the packet and also online, I've provided the eligible CDBG activities that individuals can apply for, which is a couple pages long. And so this is, like it mentions, that first hearing that we open up to citizens and organizations to be heard and let us know what they want us to apply for. I'm not seeing anybody sign up for the list for presentations here, but with that, if we can make a motion to go into that public hearing, then we can check to see if anybody in the audience wants.
I'll make a motion that we go into public hearing for the purpose of dealing with our CDBG funds.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Adams. Motions to go into public hearing.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions before we take a vote? Hearing none, let's go ahead and take a vote to go into public hearing mode. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor. Unanimous vote. We are now in public hearing.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue or make an application request? Let me check to see if there's anybody online.
Is the county going to apply for any of these funds, Mac?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But this one here, the first public hearing, is really to hear from any
Okay,
organizations that are out there,
Right.
representatives from those organizations that would like to apply, like the county to apply on their behalf. Not seeing any online. Nobody in the audience with that. And so with that, commissioners, you can go ahead and close the public meeting or the public hearing, and then we can close the meeting.
Real quickly, Mac, just for the record, maybe a little more in regards to the CDBG. This is federal.
It is a committee, so it's through HUD. And HUD releases funds to the state, and the state allocates those funds out to the various association of governments. That's why you see the process here is handled really through Southeastern Utah. They get their allocation, which allows entities to apply for those funds. Now, HUD has specific requirements that those funds can be allocated towards, and the state kind of oversees those allocations, and that's what you see on this list. Our association of government, they will take the applications that they receive from entities or from the counties, cities that apply for the funds, and evaluates those proposals and then selects based off of the funds that they receive. Now, Southeastern Utah, they take a portion from the top in their meeting, and so it's not that there's 700,000 eligible. It's after they take their portion. A lot of times you'll see the Association of Governments apply funds for housing. They also apply funds for administration of the CDBG program itself. So the CDBG, that stands for the Community Development Block Grant process, and allocate from those. Typically what we see is multiple applications. There's typically, and this is across the board, when you have grant funds like this that's eligible for specific projects, you typically have more applications for the funds than you actually have the funds. So we kind of wait our turn. If the county applies, then the county, we go through that ranking system, that evaluation criteria to see where we rank out, and then a evaluation committee reviews those rankings, and it goes into the Association of Government also to vote on those rankings. And so it's quite an arduous process, and that's kind of why you see today with the requirement that the new requirement that they have out, that they wanted this public hearing to be a separate meeting, separate from the regular commission meeting, which is kind of why you see that. In the past, the San Juan County has received funds through the CDBG process. LaSalle was awarded years and years ago. The elevator in the administrative building here was funded through CDBG funds, which is an ADA accessibility eligible criteria for funding. And so,
Okay.
So-
And just to remind me, to be eligible or to be supported by the county, you need to be a political entity.
no,
County
it
government?
doesn't have to be. You can be a nonprofit organization. You can be an individual itself that makes an application. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a political entity.
Okay. All right. Well, I think those are the extent of my questions, commissioners. Any other comments or questions before we close?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to close,
Second it.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, let's take a vote to close the public hearing. All those in favor to close? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Unanimous approval to close public hearing. So now that's time mark on that is 11:18 a.m. Now we are adjourning and moving on to our commission meeting agenda. So go ahead and call that our regular County Commissioner Board of Commissioners meeting to order at 11:19 a.m. Let's go ahead and do our roll call for our regular commission meeting. Commissioner Stubbs,
Here.
Commissioner Adams,
Here.
Commissioner Harvey here. Everyone is present. We have a full quorum for today's commission meeting. Moving on to our conflict of interest disclosure. Matt? Or actually, I can do that. That's
Okay.
good.
So I was
Commissioner-
jumping in. I was ready.
Commissioners, if you've reviewed the agenda for today, are there any items that you might have conflict with? If you do, now's the time. But if you don't, it's also good to put on record that you don't.
I have none.
I have none.
None for
No
Commissioner
conflict of
Stubbs.
interest.
No conflict for Commissioner Adams. And if I remember correctly, as long as my wife's name is not on here, we're good. So no conflict for me. Okay. We are all cleared for conflict of interest declaration. So we'll move on to our public comments for our commissioners meeting. Matt.
Okay, I didn't see anybody, like I mentioned, signed up on the register for public comments. Don't have anybody that's changed online. So with that, it's your public comment period for today.
Okay. Thank you, Mac. Let's move on with our agenda. This will be our consent agenda items. Go ahead and have Mac review with us. Go ahead, Mac.
Okay, so for today, on your consent agenda, you only have one item. It's approval of $5,359.29 in small purchases. We had $1,236 for the community outreach tobacco prevention for the San Juan County Public Health. Then you have $2,609.77 for the dash cluster. I think that's an internal. And $1,513.52 for a Volt lithium jumpstart for the San Juan Road Department.
Okay.
That is your consent agenda for
All
today.
right, all right, commissioners. Looks like four items there for purchases.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by
second.
Commissioner Stubbs, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Thank you, commissioners. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
No?
Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote on our consent agenda item. All those in favor to approve our consent agenda for today? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. Consent agenda items are approved unanimously. Moving on to our next item, recognition, presentation, and informational items. Mac?
Okay, this first presentation is the Dwelling on Future Housing Assessments findings. We've got Mick Thornton, our fellow, as well as Brian Points. I think Brian is going to give our presentation. He's with Points Consulting. Points Consulting is our contracted vendor who we contracted with to perform the housing study here in San Juan County. We've reached a point to where we're now in final form of that study, and we're going back out and presenting to all the parties throughout the county. And so I'll turn the time over to Brian or Brian, or sorry, Mick. Point at Mick, say Brian. But both of you are tag teaming. This is all the better.
Well, we already have a couple.
Greetings, commissioners. You won't hear much from me in this presentation. Brian's going to do the heavy lifting. Just want to give you kind of a background recap of where we're at. So Economic Development Administration really values a document called a CEDS, a Community Economic Development Survey, which CERTA oversees for this region. The most recent CEDS just started. The one before that listed as a growth area. What's that?
We have the
Oh, great.
packet.
So yeah, listed as a growth area, affordable housing. So from that, the county worked with GOEO to secure funding, as I understand it, to get a countywide housing assessment, which is where Brian comes into the picture and is the completed assessment that he's going to present on today. And corollary to that, the county wrote a grant applying for a fellow, that would be me, from the Economic Recovery Corps, to come in and assist the county to develop capacity to help bring about the findings of this assessment. So we're really excited about how all this has come together. I'm going to give each of you a paper copy of that assessment right now.
Do you want me to pass them out? I can pass them out.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you, commissioners, for having me.
Thanks, Mick.
Really, thank you to all of San Juan County for being very helpful and hospitable to myself and my team, and the multiple occasions that we've come here over the past year, and the many conversations that we've had with community members and community leaders.
You can run the mouse.
All right, there we go. So I'm really happy with what we've come up with on this this study. When we do projects like this, which we do across the country, what I really aim for is something that's informative, actionable, and is going to put some tools into the hands of rank and file average people, and that people trust. They feel like we've talked to everybody, that there wasn't any doors closed, or there wasn't anybody that we were, the people told us not to talk to, that we avoided. So that's what we sought to do here. So I'm just going to take 20, 30 minutes to go through kind of a sample board of some of the data that's in the report that's in front of you. As an FYI on that report, we organized it in two different sections. The first section is about San Juan County, and oftentimes kind of compares the different communities within it, sometimes to the state of Utah, sometimes to the United States. And then volume 2, if you will, which starts around page 60, is specific sections for each community. And you can see in the title of the slide deck here that recognition that there are very different communities within San Juan County was an important part of what we did. So we felt like it wouldn't have been really hit the mark if we didn't give that section at the end of the document that said this section, we give 20 pages to Blanding, 20 pages to Monticello, and 20, 30 pages to Navajo Nation. So if that's what you're interested in seeing, just know that when you get to the report, you can see that yourself. Okay.
Should just scroll down on it.
Right. I want to see if I can amplify this at all, but it's fine. I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, there we go. We are a company located in Moscow, Idaho. Small business. We focus on things related to land use, economic development, and housing. So this is not the only study of this type that we do. In fact, this is something we really specialize in. And I think important to this study, excuse me, we are very familiar with working with Native communities as well. Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, which was instrumental in this case. So this is just a slide of some of the other places that we've worked. first, definitionally, what actually is a housing assessment? You're measuring supply and demand in as many different ways as you can, and you're getting the community's engagement on that front. So if we want to know what's the demand for, ultimately, that's one of the big research questions we had to answer is how many units, what type of units, where should they go? To answer that type of question, you have to look at all of the job trends, the demographic trends, the locational trends, the multiple listing service data, the housing permits data, all that stuff. So that's functionally what went into this. And then we also did community town halls in all of the primary communities, including we did one in Monument Valley around, I want to say it was February, March, that was very well attended. And following up on that, recognizing the importance of meeting chapter house representatives. So there's 7 chapter houses that touch San Juan County. We made efforts to speak directly with all of them, and we ended up connecting with 6 out of the 7. And we also have connected with the White Mesa Ute in this process as well. Why do a housing assessment? Now, very good question, because you could look at it and just say, well, you could just point to me some statistics that tell us that housing is very unaffordable and we don't have enough for it. Okay, project's done, right? What else do I need to know? What we aim to do is actually provide quality market research so that something can be done about that. And that something stretches across the spectrum of regular property owners who may not know what the demand is, right? They may not know if I want to sell my house, if I want to build an accessory dwelling unit, if I want to, adapt my house and make it a duplex. They may not know that the demand is actually out there. If you're a property owner, right? If you're, say, a ranching family or something like that, and you own 80 acres, these are all things that there's no market research out there. There's no database where you can buy this data. We created that so that the private sector can do something about it. We also created that so that the public sector can understand what forms of land use rules and zoning rules might be either facilitating or harming the ability for demand to meet, or for supply to meet demand. So contextually, at the national level, about 75% of lands in municipal areas are zoned exclusively for single family housing. That is one of the reasons, it's not the only reason, it's one of the reasons that housing is really, really expensive in the United States. It's a supply constraint. It's an artificial supply constraint. So it is really worth every community looking themselves and saying, are we part of this? Is there anything that we can do to adjust density standards, to change zoning code, to make it easier for affordable housing to be developed? I want to be careful. I said the term affordable, and I should be more careful about that because this often comes up. Affordable housing, a lot of times people will think of HUD, low income, subsidized housing, that kind of thing. That has a role to play in this, certainly, and we have the data to back that up. But another way to think of it is just attainable housing, right? So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of in that middle density spectrum of, duplexes, quadplexes, even accessory dwelling units. It's not subsidized, it's just lower cost. So we oftentimes will call that attainable or attainably priced housing. I like to start with this slide because it shows what the actual metrics are across these communities, plural, within San Juan County. And I think just a quick view of this shows you the level of diversity of these locations. If you pick any one of these metrics, there's a huge range or kind of standard deviation of what's normal, whether that's age, where Blanding is exceptionally young and LaSalle is exceptionally older, right? Any one of these metrics, you can see those interesting dynamics there. On Navajo Nation, where there's an average of 3.52 people living per housing unit, versus LaSalle, where there's 2 people per housing unit, right? So really vastly different dynamics, including income, all that kind of stuff. So this helps tell the big picture, and it also shows what a large proportion of the overall population of the county is in the bottom third, that is Navajo Nation. So 5,800, our best count. There's really no way of telling. Census data are not perfect. They're especially imperfect when it comes to tribal areas, but we did our best with the data that we had. First, I'm going to show you a population forecast that we put together, because before you forecast housing units, you need to forecast population. And we did 2 different forecasts here. One of them that we call status quo is just that. It's let's take what's happening now and just run that out for 20 years. And the other one is the optimistic forecast, which is you change some of the assumptions to add in more job growth, more housing, right? The factors that would actually lead to the development of more housing units. If you play out that status quo, what we found is that by 2044, the population of San Juan County would be less than 12,000 people, which is the lowest that it will have been since 1987. So some of the recent trends that are coming, plus some of the aging population, plus the net out migration, is all contributing to that possibility. It's not inevitable, but it is a real possibility. The more optimistic forecast pushes you forward, an average rate of say 0.2% positive per year. So that translates into our housing needs forecast, which, not surprisingly, there's a status quo and an optimistic forecast on this front too. When it comes to the status quo concept with housing, it could potentially get not pretty, right? Because what happens when you see declining population is that a lot of the housing units that are there end up becoming unoccupied or vacant. Vacant housing units lead to blight, or lack of maintenance, which leads to neighborhoods feeling a sense of disinvestment, right? So if I have a couple houses in my neighborhood that with broken windows and the roofs are caving in, my property values are going down whether I do anything to my house or not, right? And then you start to see disinvestment, then you start to see out migration, you start to see property values decrease. We don't want to see that happen. There are places in the country where this is happening. There are places in Europe where this has been happening for years because of population decreases. If you look at the East Coast, certain places I've been in, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, right? It's a possibility. We don't want to see that happen, but I want to speak truth to you all, right? Optimistically, if you see improvements, not just in housing, but also in economic development, so creation of more jobs, right? And there's some real positives on this front with the natural resources that you have, the mining potential that you have, the tourism resources that you have. In fact, you actually have a lot of jobs in the county where people aren't living in the county, right? So you're already, in some sense, kind of exporting some of your potential residents because of lack of housing. So there's reasons to be optimistic on that front, and that would be a more kind of rosy trajectory. As we go to this next slide, these are the numbers on that. And if there are terms that you all are unfamiliar with here, let me know. I can define them. But basically what we're trying to show is that in San Juan County, like most places in America, most of the housing stock is what we call single family detached. That is a way of saying it's a house. It's a standard house in a residential neighborhood. Typically it's on a lot that's, anywhere from 1,200 square feet to 2,300 square feet, third of an acre to a half an acre or something like that. That's normal. And there's nothing wrong with that being normal, because there are a lot of benefits to owning a home. It's good for community engagement, good for local investment, all that kind of thing. We don't want to change that. That's a fundamental aspect of the community that should remain as it is. And there's not good reason to. There are places where housing costs have run away so much that the only solution is to create a lot of multifamily. Fortunately, you're not in that situation. So we just we're easing in a little bit more middle density stuff here. And some of this is going to require, again, a hard look at zoning code to see whether some things can be changed to make that possible. But regardless of the scenario, we're talking about 75, 80% of the housing stock remaining single family. And in the optimistic forecast, I don't want to convey a picture that this is like turning the county into Moab. We're talking about 600 additional units over the course of 20 years. That's very moderate, right? And it has to be moderate because honestly, there's not enough resources, demand, or developers to actually get a really high number currently. And this is a cut on the affordability metrics. To get to this, you can look at that red portion of the donuts. That's the key part that's telling you what percentage of households cannot afford to buy a single family home in each of the communities. This is based on cost of a housing unit, of a median priced housing unit at the time we did the study, and the financial and economic conditions, the interest rates, all that kind of stuff, and the median household income. So it's basically just a mathematical model. You see the diversity of the county, but I'd say one of the things that's most promising here is if you look at the two principal cities, over half of the population is technically able to afford to buy a single family home, which is really good compared to a lot of places where we do this. And this bears out throughout our study and some of the other slides that I show. When you're looking at Bluff and Spanish Valley, it gets a little more difficult. This is another cut on it, but this shows how things have changed over a 10-year period of time. The 3 bars show percent change in home values, incomes, and rent. Everybody's got to have a place to live, so you're paying a mortgage or you're paying rent, right? So it's just a way of showing how far your dollars can go compared to where they did 10 years ago. And I think all of us can see personally with our own eyes that a dollar's not going as far as it used to 10 years ago, especially with the increases in the past couple of years. The data bear that out. Now, again, the good news is you're not as bad as the state of Utah in general, but there is a big gap between the navy bar, home values, and the gold bar, which is what people are getting paid. And on that gold bar, San Juan County is not growing. The incomes are not growing at the same rate as the state of Utah. So in one sense, the positive news is home values aren't escalating at a skyrocketing rate. The bad news is incomes aren't either. Incomes are lower, and they're also not going up, which leads to this view, the one on the left, which is probably the easiest way to convey the number. This is basically saying how many years of an average person's income does it take to buy a house in that area? How many years of an average person's income it takes to buy a house in that area? So in the state of Utah, that answer is 6+ years. If you're talking about Blanding and Monticello, it's 4.8 and 4.5 respectively. So the scaling down of both income and housing costs works in your favor in some sense. But in San Juan County, you are basically matched. So it's interesting, right? Because there's all these unincorporated areas within San Juan County, such as Spanish Valley and the areas that are outside of the city, where there's a lot of housing growth going on. So those numbers are getting pushed up, but within some of your main cities, they are not. And then on the left, this is home sales data directly from multiple listing service, which is what realtors use to record where they list their homes and where they record the sales and stuff like that. And it just kind of generally follow that trajectory and see that it actually went up quite a bit. You know, the number of homes being sold starting around 2017, but the prices did also. So there's new layers on that sandwich that are above that gold bar, which is the $100,000 to $200,000 range. That bar has basically gone down to nothing, and all those higher cost homes have gone up. And again, I think a lot of the influence there is Spanish Valley as well. Specifically the part of Spanish Valley that's in San Juan County, not the part in Grand County. Land availability. We talked when we started about how supply is also an important part of this equation. And this slide tells that story. So you have this huge county. It's bigger than some states, right? But it's not all available for development because of tribal trust lands, federal government, state government, all that kind of stuff. So if you actually look at that 8%, it's roughly equivalent to the size of Weber County, Utah, which is much, much smaller. So you don't, on one hand, you have a huge amount of area, but it's also sparsely populated, and you also don't have as much land as it looks like on paper. Also, I don't have this here, but I have it in the report. There are specific spots in Blanding and Monticello, especially, that are really, really good for potential housing development. And the characteristics you'd want to be looking for there are proximity to town, proximity to utilities and roads, and flatness of land. It's all there, right? So you have some opportunities, and some of the state grants that we'll talk about in a minute are designed to utilize spots like that, but it takes some work to get there. And then there's also all the infill possibilities. So infill basically means, let's say you're in your neighborhood, you have 2 or 3 lots that nobody's ever bought or nobody's ever built on. right? Those are also way cheaper to build on because you don't have to build roads. You don't have to build a 6-inch sewer pipe to get to it. Just little spots need to be covered in order to serve that house. Housing permits. This shows what houses have been developed over the past 10 or 20 or so years. The story here is it's been very quiet in Monticello and Blanding, and as of late, it's been pretty loud outside of those areas in all the unincorporated areas. In this case, that may capture partly Bluff as well, because Bluff didn't become an incorporated community until just a few years ago. So it really took off around 2021. That's not uncommon. A lot of these rural communities that we work in, you saw a lot of kind of COVID out-migration and people built houses in new areas and stuff. So I wouldn't expect that to continue, and you can start to actually see that come way down in 2022, and it'll be interesting to see how that trends in the future. Within cities, there's a lot of talk about short-term rentals, so we thought it was important to tell that story as well. To what effect our short-term rental is actually impacting these communities. The short story here is that if you're in Spanish Valley, Bluff, Halchita, Mexican Hat, or Monticello, it's having an effect. Basically, if you're above 9%, it matters and you can see it. If you're below that point, it's a low boil. It's probably not, people may not be thrilled about it, but it's not impacting very much. There's a lot of strategies for communities across the country for how to deal with this, depending on how much leverage or power that the local community wants to enforce on it. And that's not something I'm going to make a specific recommendation on. That needs to be decided at the local level. But just showing you the numbers, it does really matter in some of these places. And you can see the pricing too. The pricing and occupancy rates are always worth tracking, because in places like Monticello, at $165 a night and less than 50% occupancy, it's not a raging hot market. And if you look at the details of that number has actually gone down. The cost per night has gone down consistently for I want to say 6 years, 5 or 6 years, right? So that's not screaming for more and more people to get into the market. It's screaming for it's maybe already a little bit oversaturated. In Monticello specifically. Population and poverty. If you're looking at federal grants, if you're looking at certain state grants, this is an important factor to look at. And San Juan County always rates very well / very poorly on this metric. But we thought it was important to show the census tract level data here and not just the county level data, because you can see where it is. Okay, in Navajo Nation, you're looking at poverty rates that are very, very high. If you're looking at the center of the county and the north part of the county, is basically average, right? So there's, if you want to know where is the most pain, where is the most challenges with income and housing, there's your answer. So specifically on to recommendations, and there's a lot to these, and some of it's better to read than it is for me to recite. But looking at the first one here, preparation to utilize 2024 housing legislative actions, there was a whole raft of House bills passed in 2024 that are designed to basically help the private sector meet the demands of the market through legal, financial, and zoning tools, to put it in a nutshell. I'm not an expert in them. There's probably, I don't know if there's anybody in the state at this point who's an expert in them. But that's part of the challenge that we're leaving to San Juan County here, is that this is new. We've gotten a couple of PDFs from the Governor's Office of Economic Development that explains some of the details about how to do this, but there's homework to do. The door is wide open, right? Because you meet all the standards. And if you want to actually incentivize not just subsidized housing, but these are policies that are designed to, the governor has said, we want to see, 25,000 new single family homes. That's what the policies are trying to do. So they're really very well suited to San Juan County. Part of that includes infrastructure development support funds, which we also list here. We've talked about zoning code. This is just something at the local level. We've given some of our thoughts. The different communities are kind of all over the map. Some of them are in really good shape. Some are in not so good shape. And then a few other quick things here. Pre-approval of building plans. You can just make it a little easier to get through the permitting process if you can kind of stamp something in advance, especially if it's a higher density type of unit. Adaptive reuse is a term for taking something and turning it into something different from what it used to be. So in this case, we're talking about taking a hotel or a motel that's underoccupied, and you can alter the zoning, right, to make it so that it can be used for housing. And we provide some examples of how that would work. Conversion of mobile and manufactured home communities to higher density detached villages. So this is sometimes called cluster housing, cottage housing, tiny home developments, right? So you think of the size of an average single wide, I'm going off of memory here. I'm gonna say 930 square feet. A double wide is probably gonna be 1,200, right? That's high density. In a tight space, right? So what you have in your communities where this is zoned for and where this exists is existing clusters of high density. But guess what? Those units from 1965 are not going to last for another couple decades. So there's a lot of value in just kind of preserving that location for high density housing and kind of enabling it to go to that next step. It's kind of second life, if you will. By my count, there's 11 manufactured home communities in Blanding and 3 in Monticello. So this is a big E on the eye chart for the county. Mutual self-help housing for low-income households, the last one down there on the bottom. This is a program that can be performed using some federal funds or state funds or whatever's available, basically saying part of the way we're going to cut down on costs is allow people to help build their own home. Right, so you got to put in, I think it's 17 hours a week minimum to help build it. It goes slower, but the costs go down. CERTA is involved in doing some of that up in their neck of the woods, and they would like to bring some of that more down here. And then options for Navajo communities. The first thing I'll say on this front is just that the more time that I've thought about this, the more that I've recognized that one of the fundamental challenges is that the Navajo Nation is a sovereign nation. So you can't just go in there and be like, here's a bunch of homes or here's a bunch of money, any more than the United States could go into Panama and just be like, here's a bunch of homes. You have to work within the governmental authorities that are there. And I think that there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding and maybe frustration from Navajo members on that front, because they're like, why are these resources not making it down there? Well, there are good kind of municipal government reasons for that. But that said, it's being really poorly done right now. That level of communication between Navajo Nation and the county and the state is really poor, and everybody feels it. So I feel like there has to be a better way that could be done. One of the greatest things that I think could be done is just propping up more nonprofit capacity on Navajo Nation. I won't go into the weeds on this, but if money comes into the chapter houses, it's not really their money. It's Navajo Nation's money. So they don't really have a lot of strong incentive to actually make money to create more revenue. What you need is another independent unit there that can collect nonprofit revenue and federal revenue from other places and then deploy it how they want. That to me makes the most sense. Elder care facility. There may be some challenges to this. I think this one is still kind of in progress being figured out, but one of the benefits of it would be basically there's a lot of people who are living in these remoter areas of Navajo Nation just to take care of elders, right? But there's no jobs available to them there. So is there a way you can create jobs in the middle of those areas so that those people can actually work?
Can I make a comment about the housing?
Yes.
In the Reservation Commission, Harvey and myself, we are in they call it NRF, and they receive funds from the state of Utah, and each chapter gets so much fund to request for building or repairing homes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think this past meeting, we become a little bit more creative. We created what is called special projects. Mm-hmm. The special project doesn't go through the whole process of going through all the. So we team up with Navajo Trust Fund and we create this project. So last time we had multiple houses being approved. Mm-hmm. One was where we just buying the material for the person to build a home. Mm-hmm. and just several. Another was just to repair an old home and bring it back to. And so sometimes I think, and I can, being from San Juan County and trying to work in another nation, I know what it's like to be in a new nation and how live in another nation. We have different rules, so it's not trying. I'm not criticizing that process, but we, by becoming, I want to say creative, or trying to figure out ways so we can save the money. So that's by finding solution instead of just building a brand new home or doing this.
Yep.
And instead of having a contractor, we have a lot of talent in the reservation as far as building.
Right.
It's a place that I admire the women. They can take engines and fix it and do things. They're very creative. They can do things. And I think if we can find sources where we can match that money for NRF and have the two of us happen to be there, and they just need to convince 3 more people to pass those. And they have been really good at passing those projects. And to me, it's such an excitement every time another house is being built there or fixed or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to bring that
Yeah.
up, that we are, working this, like Navajo Trust Fund is being really good at working that NRF. So good to work with which way we can do to encourage people to apply. And so I don't know if you want to add to that, but anyways, it's a good, there's lots of good projects going. The thing is that it's a big need, and we have spent lots of time with, they're talking to people about housing. There's lots of people, well-educated people, they have good jobs, and they want a good home.
Yep.
And we had talked about, there's some people that own the land. Not everybody own the land, but there's some people that own the land. And they had gone to a bank and borrowed their money for a home, and for one reason or another, it can happen to anybody, it got to where the house got repossessed. And so trying to understand how can the bank take your property, take your home, and you pay and you don't get nothing back. Just trying to talk to the people, explain how things work. And Elaine Gissler, she was before here with community development. She spent lots of time going and talk to the people and try to figure out how we can make things happen, because we should be doing better. I don't know who is we to give people better homes, and especially in our strip, in the Utah strip, we need to figure out ways to.
Okay. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you.
Commissioner Harvey, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. I find the recommendations helpful because this is more of a roadmap to work together with other organizations, to look at, here's the groundwork. What do we do now with our entity, our organization? What steps can we do to take part in this conversation? I think we're moving towards the direction of communication, and it makes me excited that a lot of the chapter of officials you met with were articulate about their needs. That needs to continue to happen at the county level, and maybe it's just us as commissioners being able to migrate down to be in the area to be more accessible, so that we have more of these conversations. It has to happen. It has to be consistent, not just monthly, and then we break away. But it has to continue. The conversation has to continue, and that's the only thing that I can think of. Building. I'm looking forward to bringing this into a meeting that I'm part of,
Okay.
and building that conversation.
Yeah. Good.
But this is valuable. It's a groundwork that we haven't seen, and it's a resource. It's information.
Yeah.
So I'll
Well,
just
we
leave it
really
at that.
strove to connect with those communities. It's a harder road to hoe. There's more resistance. A lot of the places are more remote, but again, if you go back to the population data, it's like, well, we want to give equal representation here. So, we put as much effort into the people in LaSalle as we did Monticello, as we did Mexican Hat. So I hope we at least accomplish that. And part of Mick is going to stay involved in this for another, 2 years or so. And he's really good at connecting with people. So hopefully that it helps with that.
Very good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Commercial. So we're on tour here. We started at Goyo yesterday and then went to Serta. This morning we were in Blanding. Right now we're obviously here. We're going to be in Bluff this evening. Tomorrow we're going to be in Monument Valley. And I was in a meeting last week with the Navajo Utah Commission that Mac had paved the way for me to be able to participate. And that meeting didn't come together exactly how we wanted, but I was able to work with the Navajo Utah Commission to invite all the chapters to that meeting. So if you guys want to continue that side of the conversation with those voices present, hopefully we're doing that tomorrow and you're invited. So.
Very good.
Yeah. 4:00 Monument Valley. One more slide. And here's a few specific, unique regional issues / applications. And I won't read off of this, but again, they're very different communities. So there's different things in different places. And I hope as you all peruse this report that you find a lot of value in that. And with that, I'm happy to take any of the commissioners' other questions or comments.
Awesome. Commissioners. a lot to think about, I think, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the work.
Thank you.
It's important. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I was just going to say it was nice the first time I met you and you guys were talking about things, and from there to this, it's amazing.
Thank you
All the
so
things
much.
are there, and so
Yeah.
thank you. And many people are waiting for this, not only us, but outsiders. They're trying to figure out how this was accomplished, and is.
Well, it warms my heart to hear that. That's what we really aim to make our clients
Well, I
happy.
hope you can come back in a couple of years and see
I'd
what we have.
love to come back.
Especially on that optimistic trend.
On the
instead
optimistic
of-
trend. Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna take the optimistic trend.
Yeah.
And I know that lots of things depend on cities. We can do
Yeah.
things in the county, but we have to depend on the cities get this, and because zoning is very important. For instance, you talk about hotel or motel. Well, if it's something in Blanding is in a business,
Right.
part,
Commercial district.
commercial district, it's hard to change it to and so that's one thing that we have to look into. Another things, and I have visited with Blanding people, and in the city, is knowing what kind of property the city owns to make available, because the local people in Blanding, we all have the hope that our children come back.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed and lucky that I had 3 of my 4 returned to Blanding with jobs, and they were to do that, and so they want the children, so they're saving their property for them. And so if we have an inventory from the city of Blanding, what's available, then contractors can, start building homes, or
Agreed.
even people buying the lots. I don't know, but I think now that we had this, we had to do our home. It's no longer homework. Now we had to do our work. So thank you.
I think if you hang out and be accessible to us, because I know there's some acronyms in there that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
And it's new
Yeah.
terminology.
Yeah.
That's I'm gonna need to help decode.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work.
Thank you,
Nick get to
commissioners.
talk to us now, Nick. Are you going to talk to us too?
I was planning on letting Brian do most of the talking today, but my observations thus far, I think a few things are really important. Thing one that became very clear as we work through the county is nobody in the central part of San Juan County wants to become Moab South, and that's really important. And I thought that Brian and his team did a phenomenal job of understanding the value of community preservation in this conversation, and really gearing this report in a way that is designed to help the communities in San Juan County become what they want to be, not some outside imported version. So I was super happy to see that as I perused their work. Secondly, by way of work and homework, the reality from my perspective is that San Juan County suffers in about every direction from bad communication. Right? GOEO doesn't do a good job of talking to CERTA. CERTA doesn't do a good job talking to San Juan County. San Juan County doesn't do a good job of talking to its regional partners. And then historically, the relationship between the chapters and the county has been fraught, to say the least. And in every piece of that, the county is wounded. And I think doing the work of connection and reconnection is going to be tremendously valuable. I love the way that Brian articulated that when he was talking about how, when we're talking about the south part of the county, the work is really about partnership from a county perspective. It's not about, like, when we're talking about LaSalle or when we're talking about Spanish Valley, those are, you're not even working through an incorporated space, right? Those are county areas. So the work happens in the chairs you're sitting in. You will make the decisions on what the zoning looks like. You will make the decisions that will foster, different kinds of change and growth. But when it comes to the bottom third of the county, it's really about a partnership conversation. And I'm excited to be here to facilitate and help and do anything I can.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm not saying that we're forgotten, but sometimes because we are so far away and we just go, to where they are, sometimes people don't think about us because we are not as quick a will or kind of but since I've been a commissioner, I noticed there's some changes. Sort of, now we have a person here in the county that can kind of represent. We are, and the more that we invite people over, the more it takes courage to speak up sometimes. I mean, those meetings with the commissioners and the presenters are there. I mean, it takes all the courage I have to even, kind of get attention to us. But I think that I'm very optimistic about the future in a good way, because, like you said, we need to preserve what we are without kind of being overcome by Commissioner Adams. Anyway, so sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I everything is good about that, and it gives us a map that we are. I mean, I'm excited. I mean, we have Talia, we have lots of people that we are. So we're gonna.
Agreed.
We have you.
And my perspective as the person who has been in a whole lot of places, talking to a whole lot of people in the last handful of months, is I'm very optimistic and excited. In every space, even though we talk about historic disconnections and communication struggles, in every place I go, I meet people who are ready to and willing to see past that and have the capacity to institute those things that we need. Deborah being a great example of that. I'm very excited. I see all the wheels turning and clicking into the right spaces. It's going to be
the lining up of the planets.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a good next 18 months. That's my prediction.
And, like we could have more jobs if we have more housing. And so other places, they don't have that, but we, between the copper mine and the energy fuel, and then the other, like we sometimes hire people. I mean, you can't find home.
Yeah.
And so people have to go live someplace else because they can't find home. So
I think the county is having a moment, and the way that the next few years of the county's moment progresses will largely shape which side of that of that graph that Brian showed us that the county perceives in. And I'm very excited to be a part of that. And as I look around at the people in the county, and especially in important stakeholder positions like you guys, the right people are in the right places to do great things together. It's going to be an exciting season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for me?
All
Thank
right.
you for the work.
What?
Work. Maybe we should clap for you guys.
That was a heavy lift.
Yeah. Now the work falls on us, right, commissioners? We get to pick up this book and make it happen.
So to adjourn.
All right, let's move on to our next presentation. Looks like we have number 4 under presentation.
Oh,
Matt?
All right, this one's a presentation on county roads, new signage, safety measures to protect the health and
she
safety
always
of
comes with that
travelers.
smile. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Well, Mac told me I could only spend 30 minutes on my presentation as well. And since I made you miss lunch yesterday, I figured I'd shorten it up a little bit. Okay, so for the safety and welfare of our citizens, the county is going to be updating our road signs. In the past, we've had a white carcinite sign, road numbers on them. We've had a whole bunch that are broken off, different things like that. So we're going to be updating our signs. Our hope is that it'll help the public know what roads they're on. If they get on their map, they'll be able to find out if the vehicle they're in is actually suitable to travel the road that they're on. And the safety part hopes that it'll eliminate people getting stuck, getting lost, that our search and rescue doesn't have to go out and rescue those people. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. So I just wanted to come and let the commission know that we're going to be out updating our signs. Like I say, we're going to start with our really high traveled areas, the traffic areas. With the increase from our monuments, things like that, it's increased a lot of travel. The BLM anticipates that we have over 600,000 visitors to the Bears Ears a year with the new monument. And so we have people that go get lost. They take roads they shouldn't take. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And the other thing I wanted to point out is it's been asked, OHV use. Every county road is approved for OHV use in San Juan County. Now, that isn't all trails, because there's different regulations for sizes and stuff, and some trails aren't. But road-wise, we have no restrictions on travel with OHVs. I know that's been a question, so I just wanted to bring that up to you. So
You got that email I forwarded?
I did.
From Brett Stewart?
I did.
Okay. Very good.
And so we've been signing some trails. We have some trails that are questions. People go on them and they're way too rough. So with just normal ATVs, things like that. So we've signed some of those, and that's what we'll start on that end. We'll start on the stuff that the normal person shouldn't be on. That's the trails we'll start signing first. The ones that anybody can ride will be last. But it'll be a process that we're going on, and I know that there's multiple counties that are trying to work together and make it easier for the public. Most residents of San Juan County have an idea. It's the travelers outside of San Juan County that don't. So, any questions for me?
Well, I might just say that we went on a field trip with Reg Johnson and Kendall Laws and looked at some areas of the county maybe some of the commissioners hadn't been on before, but with a recent decision of Judge Waddup's declaring that San Juan County and all other counties have a vested right in these RS 2477 roads. We just want to make sure that we are transparent and open and prepared to write a letter to BLM letting them know that we're going to sign these roads for the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. and assert our claim to these RS 2477 roads. So appreciate what you're doing, TJ, and look forward to seeing those roads be signed.
I decided I went on the amazing trip down almost to the cliff. It was fun to see how vast and big. I thought San Juan County is big going one direction, by going east and going around. Amazing how big it is, and amazing all the opportunities that can be there if we eventually can fix the road, build new roads too. But I support this decision for us to mark all our roads. It's like marking our territory in some ways, you know. So
It helps people not get lost.
yeah.
So TJ, the only question I have is just thinking down south from where I'm from and where Commissioner Stubbs is. I know for the county, we contract with the nation to maintain the bus routes. So is that part of the effort as well, as we're blading those county roads, that if the sign is tipped over because high winds, that those will be a part of the...
So the Navajo Nation is who signs their roads, where we're just a contractor to do the maintenance on it. We don't do any signage down in there.
No, I don't think those roads are RS.
They're not in RS 247 as well.
Okay.
Those roads have the easements and rights are all with the Navajo Nation. So there's not a question of if the public can use the roads, and that's what the RS 2477 is to make it to where the public still has access to those roads, and the BLM.
So
Or
basically just goes down to we're just contracting to do the work for Navajo Nation roads.
Yeah.
And that's the limit. Okay.
Yep.
Do we want to bring up about that road contract so that we talked about yesterday when you came for the budget? Do we want to bring up about contracts that we have?
No, this presentation is just to
Okay.
address the RS 2477 road signing
Okay.
that we're gonna.
Okay.
We're
No,
gonna
I
have
just
the
want
road
for him
department
maybe
do.
to know what we talked about yesterday. So
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe you
And
can listen
and
with
we
him
can
one-on-one.
we can have a work session or something on that if we want.
Okay.
I would value that.
Okay.
That would be awesome. Because whenever we talk about roads, it's such a complex kind
Yes.
of system that you have to really be specific on certain things. So
Yeah.
If you start dealing with it long enough, your hair will look like mine. So
all right, TJ.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
TJ.
Right.
Do we have to vote on that?
No, presentation.
I mean, I don't know if you can get that subdivision up. So I've got a
Hold on just a second. So we are on business action now. Item number 5.
Okay.
Six.
So you're still a few. And so we're on item number 5, which is consideration and approval of the interlocal agreement between San Juan
Yeah,
County
it's Rebecca first.
and
Kristen.
Utah Navajo Health System for diabetes and hypertension prevention and management. This one will be presented by Rebecca Benali.
Oh, sorry, you guys skipped.
yeah.
Gotcha. Hey,
But-
You're ready.
remix. I am ready.
But great motivation. Kristen.
Totally. Hi, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Is it afternoon? Okay.
Commissioners, Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner Stubbs, and County Administrator McDonald, and County Clerk Mr. Duncan. It's good to be here. We are presenting on the interlocal agreement. This is for Utah Navajo Health System. And so how this works is these grants come from CDC. They go to the state, they become block grants, and then they're sometimes we have to do proposals, RFPs. Sometimes it's allocated by needs or population. So in this case, and to the local health department. For this grant, it's for diabetes, hypertension, and physical activities, which is called SPAN. But this particular interlocal agreement is between Utah Navajo Health System and San Juan County San Juan Public Health. So this is similar to the ones you've approved before for tobacco, Senate Bill 37. Because of our partnership, we work with Utah Navajo Health System Diabetes Program for pre-diabetes prevention and for diabetes management programs. So that's what we do. So there is objectives to grants when they come, and we work with the diabetes and hypertension program. And we do a pass-through funds of $3,000. So our total grant is $10,000. So we pass 3 to the UNHS diabetes program and UNHS hypertension program, because we're not in a clinical setting. So we do prevention education. So they work with the electronic health records. They actually see the clients and patients. So it's at the clinical level. So what we do is the education. So we partner and provide services, and then also to streamline referral systems with providers. So we're working with Utah Navajo Health System to accomplish that. And so the latest challenge that we're facing is we have done the education part. We're getting people referred to the diabetes or hypertension program. When they get the patients, they're not coming back for their second appointments. So that's our next challenge. So we're strategizing on how to get patients referred, get them into a program, and coming back to their second and further appointments. So Utah Navajo Health System has put together a mobile clinic. So these clinics go out to the chapter houses once or twice a month. They make their rounds along the Utah Strip and in Blanding as well. And we're just at the very beginning of working with Spanish Valley on these programs. So, but for the sake of this agreement, it's with Utah Navajo Health System. So they will pass through $3,000 to each. So in total, $6,000. So that's what this interlocal agreement is. Do you have any questions?
Well, I think it's good. I know they have those clinics where people go and check the sugar, And also, another thing that Navajo Health System does, and I think they do it to all the diabetic patients they have, they send you a reminder this time to do your testings, And I think sometimes already been that long, we just don't keep track. But I think anything to help with it, with diabetes is so important. So
Okay.
thank you.
So the new amended copies, that's the correct one. What's in your packet says $8,000. So the correct number is $6,000. Because it's $3,000 each to each program. So the one you have says $8,000, and this one is the correct amount. It's $6,000, and that is on the third page at the top, number 3, where it says costs.
The 8,000.
Yeah. So the correct number is $6,000.
Okay.
So
We'll make sure the correct one is signed then.
yes. My other question is, because these grants are normally for 5 years at a time, so year to year new contract, they're not necessarily new contracts. They're the same objectives, same amount of dollars, and they're for 5 years. Do we need to do interlocal agreement every year?
On this one here, you have it going until June 30th of 2025.
That's at the local health department level. Okay. What I'm saying is when they become block grants, local health departments, we have them for 5 years.
Okay, we would have to do just a simple amendment to it.
Just amendment?
Yeah,
okay.
Where it's stated in the term of agreement in the contract itself, the expiration is June 30th, 2025. then that's kind of hard. It's a simple amendment form.
Okay.
And then it also goes on the consent agenda.
Oh, okay.
And so it makes it easier because there's really no presentation. Once we've heard this and we know what you're doing, makes it a lot easier on the consent agenda to amend them.
Okay. Well, you'll be seeing us for Spanish Valley then. All right. If you don't have any other questions, that's our presentation. And she's introduced herself to you before, but Zoe John is our health educator. And it's a blessing that she's within our program. So we have more of a community outreach with her help. So I'm glad that she decided to join San Juan Public Health.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement between San Juan County and Utah Navajo Health Systems for diabetes, hypertension prevention,
I'll second that.
and management, as presented by Rebecca.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor to
Aye.
approve the
Aye.
agreement? Aye.
Very
That's
good.
3 in
Thank you.
favor.
Thank you for
Unanimous
coming.
approval.
So nice to see you.
It's good to see you all.
Yeah,
Watch
thank
for those
you.
in the future, because if you put it in the contract that it's that with the eligible funding, then we can definitely go up to that 5-year maximum on this
Okay.
contract. Make it easier,
Yes.
and so especially right up front that you want to continue it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So this next one on your agenda is
Kristen,
get to it. Consideration and approval of the San Juan Estates Phase 5 Amendment Number 3 subdivision. Kristen, you're up.
Sorry, I'm in overdrive today, so we're on smooth sailing. This subdivision is located within the current San Juan Estates Phase 5 subdivision. It is Amendment 3 to these lots. You can see Mount Hill Drive is there on the bottom. That's the main access point. So what this is doing is we are kicking a property line up there above Lot 50A and then dividing that into 3 parcels. Each parcel does have the road frontage that's required off of Mount Hill, which is a public county road. This has gone through our plat review team and is approved by staff and was recommended at the Planning Commission meeting on November 14th last week. Any questions? He could not be here today, but gave me rights to speak on his behalf.
whose subdivision is it?
Dan McPherson
Okay.
is the property owner.
I have no questions. I'll make a motion. We approve
And I'll second it.
the San Juan Estates Phase 5 Amendment 3 of the subdivision.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Adams to approve, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
3 approve.
Thank you,
Unanimous
guys.
Thanks,
approval.
Kristen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kristen.
All right, moving on to our next item, number 7.
Okay, this one here is consideration and approval of the library criminal background check policy.
Commissioners. Now, this is just a policy that we're required by a statute that was passed by Utah earlier this year. That all libraries, public libraries, implement a criminal background check for employees as well as any volunteers that the San Juan County Library Board deem significant interaction with minors or population, vulnerable populations. So this puts us in compliance with that. The nice thing about this is since we are a 4th class category public library or county, that makes our public library eligible to get refunded for any criminal background checks that are conducted. So if you have any questions?
No questions? I think we're good. Just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, but I can't see that screen to see it.
background
Okay.
check promise.
On the background check for the library.
All right.
I'll second the motion to identify all criminals.
Motion to approve by
Fantastic.
Commissioner Stubbs, second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions? If none, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, we're
in
Thanks,
eating.
Nicole.
We're
Thank
eating,
you.
But we are here till about 5 today doing.
So,
And
unanimous approval for the record for background check policy.
Just a heads up that I need a commissioner's signature, and then I'll take it to Marjorie because we'll need her.
Rosa,
We'll have
yeah.
Rosa. Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Next
Thank
item.
you so much for everything.
Yes, I will tell my staff.
I need
I
to
have
come and see
awesome
the,
Michaela
I need to
and-
come and see the fall stuff that you guys have there.
Yeah, do come.
Yeah.
We're doing a gingerbread house competition right now. And then I know Michaela's, they do something in coordination with the city of Monticello with the gingerbread houses too.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That
all right.
sounds
That's
fun.
cool.
Thank
Keep
you.
your eyes open for criminals.
I see it every day.
Okay, this next one on your agenda is consideration and approval of an agreement with the State of Utah Department of Transportation Division of Aeronautics for the U-96 Cal Black solar system upgrade improvements. Essentially, earlier this year, if you remember, out at Cal Black, we'd received notice that the solar system that's in place was in failure, and at that point in time, we had 2 backup generators out there. They're old backup generators, but we had to switch over to those backup generators for the main point of power. That point, we had some discussions. There was a complaint, that an airplane was flying over and couldn't see the runway lights. They made a complaint to the state, and the state had reached down to us asking us what was going on. Since that time, we had replaced some of the solar batteries in that system, and so it's up and operational right now. They haven't had to migrate back to the backup system for several months now, but that's during the longest days of the year. During the summer, in winter it gets harder where you don't collect a lot of solar from the sun. There's just less daylight to power all the generators, recharge all the batteries in there, so we have to use the generator more often in the wintertime. The state also recommended that we really should have a separate operation building on its separate load bank of power, and the airstrip itself on a different bank. All of ours is tied together, so if the building goes down, so does the runway. And upon the state's recommendation, we've reached out to a consultant who went through the system in its glory and did an assessment on the system itself and what it would cost essentially to separate into 2 systems, with this airstrip and the operations building being separate on there, and what that cost would. What also, is the current situation with generators and that. So they had given us a proposal around the tune of about $400,000, with the prices and everything continuing to go up and the difficulty with solars to get those and obtain the system that we need. The state stepped in and has been willing to grant the funds to the county for upgrading that solar system. With that, there is a portion of county funds that would have to come up with of this project, about 5% of the project, but the state is willing to grant us the remainder of the funds. So the agreement that you have before you today is for a total of $450,000 of grant funds that would be allocated towards this project, so that we can go ahead and begin immediately to work to fix that system. And so more than likely you won't see a lot of movement until 2025. But we've reached out to the consultants that had evaluated the power system itself. They have a contractor that they can pull in that's specific to solar generating. When the airport was established initially and we started doing the improvements out at Cal Black, they were one of the initial consultants for the solar system out there. And then since that point in time, as we've grown up throughout the years, we migrated to a different company up north that did the solar improvements. If we had a component that failed, we would reach out to them and pull them down here to San Juan County. A little bit expensive, but they got to a point in time with this last year that they really kind of refused to even return our calls. Not necessarily refused, that they just didn't. And so it became more and more difficult to even get the batteries that we purchased. In that evaluation, they also mentioned that the batteries that they had proposed that we buy, and it was about $40,000 in batteries that we had spent this last year. Those batteries were undersized for the system itself. And so he's like, that solar company shouldn't even propose those batteries for the system that you have. And so with that, like I'd mentioned, the state of Utah is willing to help us out in this crunch, knowing that the jeopardy that we're in out there, especially during the winter, and the critical nature of that airport itself. And so with that, that's what you have before your consideration today.
Make
Okay.
a motion to approve the agreement between our county and the Utah Department of Transportation.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Stubbs.
I'll second that. It looks like we're only going to have to come up with, out of the 450, we'll have to come up with an additional about 20,000.
Correct. Well, and what they had also mentioned on here, just so you know, in that is the state had mentioned those batteries that we've purchased previously can be used as the in-kind portion as well. So
Good.
so we'll try to get some compensation out of those purchases that we did.
This is such a good thing, such
Yeah.
a good deal for us.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to
And
save
this
us.
is kind of preparing us not only for now, but for the future as we look into all the possibilities that the county can have with having a functional airport in that area. And so it seems like every year, Matt, sometimes we don't give you the credit that sometimes you do especially with this airport, you have been doing quietly going about finding money and keeping it fixed. That's one thing as a commissioner, we can't think of every everything, and so appreciate that, and I hope that some of this news gets out, that people notice that there's some good things happening. Yeah, we do have
Absolutely.
our moments that are not so good, but overall, I think there's lots of good things happening, and I'm so glad to, be part of this time in the county, and so thank you, Matt, for that.
Thank you.
Okay. We got a motion and a second, so let's go ahead and take a vote. All
Aye.
those in favor to approve the agreement? Aye.
Sorry.
3 in favor, unanimous approval. Moving on to item number 9.
Okay, item number 9 here. Let me get to the next agreement on here. So item number 9 is consideration and approval of an agreement with the State of Utah Department of Transportation Division of Aeronautics for the AIP 023 U96 Cal Black Rehabilitate Taxiway A project. This is in its total. This is the project that we actually had on our capital improvement plan, which was the next step. We did the runway, and now we need to rebuild it. So the runway was a piece of it, and then we went this year's project, which kind of extended from the 2023 fiscal cycle for the federal government, was the AWAS, so the all-weather system. That project is underway, but we held off a year on that project, and so this one is next in line, which is the taxiway rehabilitation. As we did the main runway, we didn't do the taxiway. On the taxiway, what we did there is we did a crack seal over that, and now this is getting the taxiway actually
so the taxiway
reconditioned.
is when they go slow before they
Yes,
turn
yep,
around and come
right
back and
beside
pick
it.
up.
Yep, and kind of where they
Okay.
park. With that, we're also looking at the main road, the main entry coming into the airport itself. And so we feel that economies of scale, if we get a contractor that's doing asphalt, if they do the roadway in, it'll save us money instead of having separate projects there. So we're working at that. This grant funding that you have here before you in this contract, $18,618 or $610 is for the design and the construction portion of it. So we've already began the design with our consultants as they go through and look at what it's going to take to do that taxiway. And then the construction component of it in 2025 will come. And so you'll see in this year's budget proposal that request for the design and construction to come about in this next year. And so seems to be a small amount, but we certainly do appreciate the state's participation in there. The state always covers 5% of the projects, and the county covers the other 5% for the 10%. And the federal government picks up the remaining portion of the project.
I have a question. I know that we have managers there. Does the county get any income from the airport?
Yes, but the income that we receive on there, so there's two different incomes. There's the economic development side of it that the county gains by having visitors being able to fly into the airport and spend money in the area. And so that definitely does happen. We have a contract with our forward operating base manager, which is the Kimmerly's. His company is the one that manages the day-to-day operations at the airport. He generates revenue there. There's lease sites that we have there for boat storage on the outside of the airport that he's able to collect a rent off of. And then aviation fuel sells. So when they sell fuel out there, he receives the proceeds from that. And because of that, the contract for the forward operating base is smaller. It's a contract. We pay them to operate that. There's been several entities in the past that have wanted to operate the airport for the county, and especially knowing that fuel sells, when they sell fuel out at the site there, they get the revenue off of it. And so it's kind of a little bit more lucrative business for the Kimberly to run that for the county. And so he does make money off of that. The county doesn't receive it. What we get is the economic development pull from it.
And I heard he does a really good job. Right?
Absolutely.
I know that some of the people that work there.
Yeah.
And so I mainly for information, just to know.
Yeah.
To learn.
And I think we're fortunate to have them with the system that he's set up. He has 3 full-time staff that they rotate typically on a 7-day basis where they're out there 24/7.
They live there.
When you look at, a lot of airports throughout the state are really worried about, whether it's drug runs or even missing people. This is one of those ways to transport. By having a 24/7 shift there, it's less likely that anybody would actually stop there at night. And so it has this safety element out there with his operations. But more importantly, they participate with it's the Southern Utah University out of Cedar City and their aeronautics program, where they'll fly over and touch down on our airport, which counts to our credit as being a little bit more lively of an airport rather than the airport across the Lake Powell there in Bullfrog. We have more touches and activity on our side than they do over there, mainly because we participate with these other programs. And so he's got an awesome operation system. You just don't mind the laundry hanging in the mechanical room when you go out there. But one day we're gonna have to take a tour out there. I think you'll be super impressed if you've never stopped in the
That'd be
operation
nice.
building.
We need to do that.
It's
I'll make a
super-
motion, we approve the agreement with the state of Utah Department of Transportation Division of Aeronautics for the design of the rehab of the taxiway.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to approve.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. All right. Let's go ahead
Okay,
and
that's-
take a vote. All those in favor to approve? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Unanimous approval. Next item
I
is
got a
item
text
10.
from Mitch about the contract
Okay.
on this next item.
Okay, so this next one is consideration and approval of an employee contract with Craig Hall as the county deputy attorney. We had Mitch up to present.
Can
Yeah,
I,
Mitch,
can I, can I make
Mitch texted me and he said he's in juvenile court. And I told him we'd go ahead and consider this item. And
Can I make some comments? I had some questions for him, I wanted to ask. And I know we talked before, but anyway, so I was hoping that he was here. And I guess I can ask the question, maybe some of you guys know. I knew that we had an ad, we advertised for the position. Did nobody applied for the position? That's the case?
According to Crystal, I checked on it with her. She said obviously we advertise all of our employment opportunities on our website, advertise them in the paper. This one here also was advertised at the Utah State Bar to notify any attorneys that this position was available.
Okay, my second question would be, was there anybody else given the opportunity to have the same
That one I don't know.
situation that-
yeah, we advertised it.
Yeah, but-
Anybody that wanted to apply
Yeah.
could apply.
But I was just thinking, this is kind of like a contract, so I was wondering if anybody, I just question just in case, I just wanted those question answered if somebody else would have be interested in the same arrangement. That's basically my thing. And I had no, and a question that he needs the help, and a question about the qualification of the person we making the contract. I think those are very, very, I always just had those questions, and I was wondering, I was gonna ask him, but he's not here, so I was asking now in case you guys know if this opportunity was given to other commissioners, other
The attorneys.
attorneys in the area, because, I just feel like we need to have good relationship with everybody, and I don't want them to feel like they're overlooked or, some haven't said that, then, and we don't know those answers, but.
Looking at the term, this might help you as the term for the agreement begins today, so November 15th, or a couple of days ago, so it'd be November 19th through December 31st of 2025. So it's essentially just a year on there. And so if there are concerns and if you'd like us to approach a different manner on advertising here in the future for these types of positions, we can certainly do that after the year. So if you approve this today, we can look at modifying our way that we market for attorneys in the future.
We didn't have anybody even show any interest.
I know, but the advertising part was different than the separate contract.
Yeah.
Are they different? So my thing is like if we were had given the same offer to another attorney, would they have taken it, or did they feel left out because we're doing? And I not question, like I said, qualification. I think the excellent qualification of the attorney we're getting. It's just we live in a small county and we always advertising for the same lawyer, so we need to have a good, a good.
Broader.
I think we advertised it,
So
and everybody that was qualified was contacted and had a chance to apply. Nobody applied.
Yeah.
So Craig said he would come in under certain terms, and Mitch negotiated that with him, but there was nobody else had any interest in serving.
Yeah, my question is, was the offer, this contract, was that offered to other attorneys, and that's the thing. It was just one.
When I look,
I'm
Yeah.
not saying
Doesn't
that
have to be.
I disagree, but I just wanted to make sure that that we okay with other attorney, because we never know when, we may need something, and so. And I know I had another question, but I can't remember the other question is, but I just wanted to clarify before we go. And so how many attorneys we have right now?
3. So this one will this will be the third one. So we've got Jens and Mitch, and then this will be the third one.
Okay.
Third attorney. It just kind of depends. This
And I
one,
knew we had a vacancy. I knew we had a vacancy
Yes,
that needed
yep.
to be filled.
Yep.
I just,
and a lot of it, and you had missed just kind of a previous discussion that we had from former attorneys when they looked at their caseload, looked at the workload itself. That was what justified having Brittany here as part-time. It's just the caseload is extensive, and you take the murder cases and things like that they've gone through. Even though we use the state of Utah to prosecute those, there's just a high volume here of prosecution that takes place from Mitch's office. I think I used to see Mitch quite a bit before he was appointed as the actual county attorney. Now you hardly ever see him. Kind of like today, he's wrapped up in court, and so there's definitely a lot of pressures, that this office has for
the other
the
question,
3.
that he needs help. I know also that lots of other departments need help too, and I just want to make sure that that we are not that we build relationships even with people that are not working for us, that they know that. Anyways, having said that, I just wanted to.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the employee contract with Craig Halls as deputy county attorney.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
and seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor to approve the contract?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Unanimous approval. Okay, now we're going to move into 2 different types of modes. So get your hats
Yes.
ready. You brought them. Looks like we need to go into Board of Equalization, and then right after that go into the canvassers. So need a motion to move into the Board of Equalization mode.
I'll make a motion, we go in Board of Equalization.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Let's take a vote. All those in favor to move into Board of Equalization mode? Aye. It's 3 in favor, unanimous. We are now in Board of Equalization mode. Item 11.
All right, commissioners, this is the fun stuff. This is the really good. So we only have a few, and we have to bring all of our changes before you as commissioners for the Board of Equalization, because you are the board. When we find gross errors in our system, we need to correct those, and that's 1 and 2. So Mr. Camberlingo called us and said that home is not on his property, it's on his aunt's property. And I went out and verified this. In fact, I was out there yesterday, and he is correct. And so from the tax roll, we need to take the home off Mr. Camberlingo's home or property as parcel. He has a parcel of land, and put it on the correct parcel. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3 was a gross overvaluation of the property. Number 4 is a mistake again that we're correcting, and they're all basically corrections. So we're getting to the final. I've got one more for next time that we've already found. So I'll have to come back on the next county commission meeting in December for one more. So the last one was West Peak. This is kind of a fun one too. So this is the brand new home over by the elementary school on the corner. Bruce is here in Monticello and Mac. And we thought it should be a secondary, but it's zoned residential. It's being built by West Peak Real Estate, and it's going to be sold as a primary residence. So we said, okay, let's change that from secondary to primary.
So that's number 4?
That was number 6, the last one.
Number 6. Oh, okay.
What causes all these changes? Is it your system?
No, it's human. It's us. It's myself. We're trying to make sure things are correct and
But the property owner's probably identifying to you what they think is a needed correction, or do you?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
That's correct. All 6 of these were brought forward by the property owner.
Are these properties that you had gone out and looked at and valued them at a certain amount, but now it needs to be changed? I'm trying to understand why there's so many corrections.
Yeah. So number 5, for instance, this is Brittany's house, Brittany Ivans and Javen. We have a Jay Ivans on number 5. And he come in and talked to us and said they had bought a trailer and they put it out there, and we assume they put it on their own property. And so if you put a house on a property, you put a trailer, you have to do the septic, and you have to do the roads and the water and all this kind of thing. So we take out 1 acre for the land and remove it from Greenbelt and do a rollback on that 1 acre. Well, when Mr. Ivans came in and talked to us, sat us down and said, no, the trailer house is actually on his father's land. All of his land is vacant, which should stay in the Greenbelt. So we got to put all the land back in the Greenbelt, remove the rollback tax. And so corrections.
Did you go out and look at the land when he
It's just
told you, or
east of Blaney, and I just looked on the plats and on the county plats and on the overhead view, and we sat down with Mr. Ivans. He was there in my office at the time, and go like, oh my goodness, the trailer's actually on his father's
you
property.
didn't go with the property owner and he identified that?
In my office. I did not go out there. I know the property fairly well. It's south of the cemetery there in Blanding. So yes, that's what's happening. And if people don't, so the 1 and 2 was a property split this year, early in the year. So they split this property, and Mr. Camberlango bought the north piece. And when you look at the property, it looks too small. So it's assumption we put the house on his property, and it wasn't correct. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these are our personal errors, and we are getting fewer and fewer of these, so it's a good thing. But yes, Commissioner, we are going fast and hard, and we do make some errors.
We have a case in our property. We have a regular property. And one day my neighbor was telling me they wish they have a little piece for a shed.
All right.
So I told my husband, can we just give them a little piece for their shed? So we gave them the piece for the shed, and then they move, and they decide they never register the land to them. So
never
now we
had a deed.
I was asking him, how come we have three taxes? We only should have 2. Well, we have a tax for the little.
So
It's just a little piece. But what I'm saying, we just move things around. We do things, and
So
I guess those things happen sometimes.
well, what happens is Lyman and the lineman will send out the notices in July, and we'll get a few corrections in July. And a lot of people just throw them away. They don't even look at them. And then when they get the real bill in October,
Yeah.
they go like, "Oh, wow, this is not right. This is an error," and they call us. And if it's on our side, we got to confess up to the error on our side and say, "Let's fix it for you and make it correct and make it right." Now, if people come in after the 15th of September and say, "Well, I just don't like my value," well, they say, "Well, you're too late. You should have went to Board of Equalization in August with our Judge Kelly, and then we would have worked it out then." So then we put everything into the next year. So already our stack of 2025 things to do is growing for those people. So
Motion, we approve the changes as presented on Board of Equalization.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions before we vote? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor to approve the changes based on the presentations, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 unanimous approval.
I make a motion, we come out of Board of Equalization.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to come out of Board of Equalization,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Let's take a vote. All those in favor to come out of Board of Equalization, say aye.
Aye.
It's
All right.
3 in
Thank you.
favor, unanimous. We are now
Yeah.
out of Board
Thank
of
you, Commissioner.
I make
Equalization.
a motion, we go into Board of County Canvassers.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to move into Board of Canvassers.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Stubbs.
Did you say second sometime or not?
Let's vote. All those in favor to move to Board of County Canvassers, aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. We are now in County of Canvassers mode.
Hadn't been out to let any of these stuff. Right?
All right, here we go.
On the spot.
Final results. Oh, drum roll.
Well, these are the results of the 2024 general election. It's a very busy election. It kept our staff incredibly busy with the changes that have come down from the LG's office and other items that we need to follow throughout the election. There were 7,618 registered voters, 6,441 voted. So we were just a little bit below 85%,
This is good though.
which is outstanding
Well,
participation.
you see the national and the state percentage?
We did notice that in this election over previous elections where we had been in the mid 90s for mail ballots, in this election that dropped about 25% percentage points. And then we saw more on election day and some in early voting of individuals who only wanted to vote on election day. I don't know what caused that shift in my 3 years. It hadn't been that way. It was always in the high mid 90s, which is outstanding by mail, but for some reason individuals wanted to vote in person. So we had heavy traffic in Blanding, Monticello here, at the Blanding Library, Montezuma Creek at the Dene Professional Building, and in Monument Valley at the Visitor Center. Not so much at White Mesa or Navajo Mountain. It kept us very busy. We waited on, we worked all day long at all of these locations because we had so many individuals show up that wanted to vote provisionally. And everybody that was in line at 8 o'clock was allowed to vote. And through all of our sites, we were able to work all of the voters through. And I think it was around 9 o'clock in Montezuma Creek was the last voter. And so it took a while, but it was good and everyone got to vote. we utilized our liaisons in chapter house meetings and some veterans meetings and early voting sites so that they could help individuals with the ballot. Throughout the county, there was a lot, the ballot was very long. It was much longer than previous years. And we had 4 amendments, 2 of which were disqualified by the judges before the election, but it still caused confusion and extended the time that an individual was at the ballot. Our express vote, the electronic voting machine, so extended the time and then just backed everybody up. But
over here at the county, I was helping, and it was a blizzard, and I thought it was really a blizzard. But we have a long lines. People were still coming. Many people that were just coming to vote. They were, but trying to get it there. And Peter was so good to give them the opportunity to vote, and with everything they can prove. And
absolutely.
And so I was surprised that with the way the weather was, how bad it was around here anyway. I don't know how it was.
We had snow in Navajo Mountain as we closed and also Monument Valley as we closed. And did you have any snow in Montezuma Creek?
After we're leaving.
After leaving, that's
No,
right.
but over here was a blizzard. I left to go, and the wind was so bad. Between trying to walk on the snow on top of ice and the wind, it was kind of hard to navigate going out. But we stay in town. We just decided to get a motel and stay here in town because we're not sure how it was going
It was
south.
snowy,
Yeah,
for the rest of the
anyway,
night. So all sorts of results here from the president, President-elect Trump, also Vice President Harrison and Tim Walz. And then we had some write-in totals and not assigned. You'll also notice kind of at the bottom of each race, we have overvotes and undervotes. Overvotes are individuals that voted for 2 candidates. Undervotes are who chose not to vote for any candidate.
we had some of those kind of, I wasn't checking that, but as you get in the ballots ready to go, you can see they're just voting for one person sometimes,
And you'll see that on the Senate race. Only 3 candidates were on the race, which is ultimately won by Representative John Curtis. We had overvotes 20 and undervotes 201, which is a pretty high number. And House District 3, Mike Kennedy, undervotes 433. So it's just kind of interesting, I think, perhaps regarding the well-knownness of a candidate determined if people are going to vote for all of them, and if they chose, or if they didn't know about the candidate, then they didn't even vote at all, but moved on down the ballot and voted for other candidates. Governor, Lieutenant
So
Governor.
the other part of their ballot where they did vote, you count it
Yes.
or not? They don't, because they didn't vote on one race.
Correct.
It doesn't disqualify their ballot.
The ballot continues on for
Yeah.
the voter, and if they choose not to vote for one race on the ballot, it's no effect. It's just an
Right.
undervote. They didn't vote.
Right.
For the governor and lieutenant governor, Governor Cox and Henderson had 2,200 votes, and Democratic candidate King and Cummings had 1,994, so a very close race. And then the write-in for Phil Lyman was 1,715, and undervotes 24, or 170, and overvotes at
One thing with the write-in, just on the first call in under John Curtis, they have write-in, for that position. I noticed a few people put Phil Lyman there and then write-in there.
Yeah, we saw that throughout
Yeah.
at different places in the ballot.
Yeah, I think they were not, probably they're not, I guess it's kind of hard with write-in because you just don't know.
We did have some just maybe interject here before we go down to the rest of the races. We did have some issues with one piece of equipment at the Blanding Library, and it was when an individual checked in, it stated that they had already voted, and so
That was on Tuesday morning. I was
Tuesday morning.
traveling here, and my daughter was texting me saying she was showing me what was appearing on Facebook, and Facebook said they're already cheating, you know, and it got so bad I couldn't wait to get here, but by the time I got here, Max said they have a technician. It was a matter of plugging a machine. But I wondered if those people came back. I mean, it was, you know, once you put something on Facebook, it's so hard to correct it. And I don't know if they came back and voted or not.
I don't even know who did that, but it kind of reverberated around. I got a call in Monument Valley. Peter was, in the meantime, was taking our only reserve poll pad, which is an iPad that has voter identification information on it, to Blanding, and so they were able to trade it out. Then we contacted the company and had them begin working on it to see if they could fix it. It didn't have any more issues for the rest of the day, but it did cause some problems there.
Well, especially early in the morning when people are going, I think there were probably like 20 people in the line, and they all said they already voted. So we are so paranoid. We are so paranoid with the election because of the media. And
Peter was involved in all this and got a good grasp of it.
Yeah, I think just for the record, we want to point out that for those individuals that checked into the poll pad that morning and it said they'd already voted, they were all given provisional ballots. They were all allowed to vote. We actually, Vint, looked at them and made sure they got voter credit and that those ballots were counted. So they did get to participate in the vote. It's just that glitch in the computer that caused them some early alarms. So we were able to overcome the challenge and make sure they were allowed to vote.
You'll never overcome the rumor.
No, I know that.
well,
I know that. But that's why I'm here to say it on the record that every single one of those people got to vote and so their vote counted.
and I think it's just people panic just because
overcome
of
Facebook.
what we hear.
So it was kind of a misfortune that individual put that out so quickly.
Yeah.
We were already working on it, and so it just kind of gave the appearance of something was wrong and that we were culpable or part of it, but we were working to solve the issue. We also had an issue of not having enough provisional envelopes in Montezuma Creek, so it took some time to get some more down there, and but that worked out pretty well also.
So there was no conspiracy.
No.
No.
No, and I knew there was, and I knew there wasn't.
No. I want to, again, just for the record, point out that we lovingly handled those provisional ballots to ensure that those individuals, particularly if you felt that provisional ballot, it's as good as gold in some respects. People don't like provisional ballots. They think that somehow it goes into a garbage pile, but it doesn't. We look at those, and if there's no voter credit in the system, and if they are an active registered voter, we count it. And if they're a brand new voter who walks in that day and fills out that provisional ballot accurately, we will register them that day and we count that ballot. So there you go.
Well, I want to say being there that afternoon or the evening, I gained lots of respect for the process. It was just, I don't know how people cheat. They say they cheat in other places, by the way this process went. I understood why they had that little, almost a window that you want to peel off and tells you not to remove. I couldn't understand that, and every machine has a purpose, and I just have nothing but admiration for the system, and I decided I want to be here till I die. I want to come and help till I die. Helping with the election, it was really good thing. It was nice to have former Commissioner Benali there helping. She was just helping there, and
It was nice.
It was nice to have. further.
I'll make a motion, we accept and approve the 2024 election canvass results.
Motion by
just thank
Commissioner
Peter?
Adams to approve the results.
And I thank Peter and Vint and everyone that helped with elections for their work. This is probably the most work I have seen in elections just because of the changes that have been coming down. And it was significant the amount of work put in. So I appreciate them.
Thank you.
Good. Very good. Got a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. Right, let's take a vote then. I
Do
think
you have any comments or questions?
let's vote. All those in favor to make the approval? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. Unanimous vote to
So nice to
approve
see
the
you.
results for the
I'll make a
general
motion, we
election.
come out of Board of Canvases
Motion
and go
to
back into our
exit.
commission meeting.
Exit Board of Canvassers by Commissioner Adams.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. Do you want to comment on this one, Commissioner Stubbs? Let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 3 in favor. We are now out of Board of County Canvassers. Now,
Thank you, Lyman and Vint and Peter. Great job.
Thank you so much.
thank you much.
And we got homemade soup and homemade bread.
That's true. My wife made dinner for everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty nice.
Wow.
Thank you.
When you're ready to have me come back, give me a.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to commission reports. Commissioners, welcome to start. Whoever's ready.
I've just been to regular meetings that have been invited to and going to meetings the end of this week up north. That's about all I have to report.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Stubbs?
Well, I just, last week we have gone to Bryce Canyon and to meet with commissioners throughout the county, and it's always nice to go and do that and get to hear updates. I feel like that meeting was very hopeful as we look into our future. I think it was. I came out very, very excited about our future, and I know there's lots of good things happening. I know that I feel like we have more connection. For me personally, I think I get into the point now where I probably know the people, and I probably get a little bit more brave to ask questions, and so I felt really good about that, and so it was a long week. And this week we're working here on the budgets and trying to figure out how we can stretch our dollars. There's so many of our workers that are doing more than one job, and I think the hard part for me is to see as they acknowledge that they need more help, the realization they probably do not have funds to help them. But I'm hopeful that, the next year will be a better year. Maybe next year we can do more for them. And I just want to, show appreciation for Commissioner Adams. I remember when I was a little girl and I was learning to ride a bike, and I didn't want anybody to let go of the bike, so they hold it for a long time. But I remember the feeling when they let me go, how good it felt. They said they didn't tell me how to stop. And Mama was having a tea party kind of thing with some visitors. And I went into the porch, into everything at the table. That's how I stopped. I stopped when I hit the table. I want to show them that I was riding, so I got to where they were and I couldn't stop. So Commissioner Adam, that's how I felt. I remember the first day, I just finished campaigning on Friday, and then the following Tuesday I was already in a commission meeting. I was sitting to the side observing all these people and trying to figure out. And Commissioner Adam came and got me from that seat and introduced me. And he hung up into the bike. and I feel like the last few meetings, he's letting me go. Hopefully, I haven't run into a tea party and spilled everything and had to live with that teasing for cousins and people that were there for years to come about me doing that. But it was good. He was just sitting by me, and I wasn't thinking about me. I was just thinking about him, how he guided me, and I know he does that for Commissioner Harvey, and how he sat there, and after he let go of the bike, I wasn't so proud of me for having got up and asked a question or say something, but I was proud of Commissioner Adams to have what it takes to kind of let go of the bike and sit down there, kind of like a cowboy that sits in the front porch. He just needed to lower his hat, and he already had the legs crossed, his boots and everything. And I turned around when I finished asking the hardest question. It wasn't hard, but it was hard for me. And I look at him, and he says, "You did well." And so I just want to thank you, because I feel like you had been so good to guide me through all this, and it'd be nice if you stay longer, but I know it's time to move on, and I guess we just have to grow up and keep pedaling. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Stubbs. I do have gifts for you, commissioners, that I brought back from Franklin, Pennsylvania. I'll give it to you soon. I didn't bring it today. I left in a huff. So, but just really quickly talking about the experience. So we're on this National Association of Counties with the entire nation, and our county just happened to receive the economic development grant that Mac worked diligently on putting together. And the exciting thing about the grant is it'll allow us to work on kind of an assessment and really look into how we can invest efforts into growing economic development in our county. Part of that experience is being in a peer exchange program. And so I got to go out to Franklin, Pennsylvania. The definition of a rural for people in Pennsylvania is much different than our definition of rural. They're calling Franklin, Pennsylvania, which is almost like a suburb of, what is that big city there? Pittsburgh. Rural, but you have to give hats off to the commissioner there that I got to meet. In fact, they caught me in the group, and I'm on their newspaper. I had to bring that for you guys. So I made national news, but it's not in a bad light. So it can all be good. It's in a positive light. Talking about exchange of peers. I think the biggest gains was they're really investing hard on refurbishing their towns and communities, because a lot of the folks are moving out and they're so populated. The housing needs are pushing the younger generation out, and affordability is increasing for them. And there's two companies there that we got to tour. There's the Humatsu, I think, Kimatsu. It's now Japanese owned, but it originally started off as a mining company. And they make specialty parts for underground mining, and they were bought over. But their local folks there, they want to establish skilled laborers. So they're trying to recruit local and bring in students who will become the next engineer for the future. And so that was part of their efforts and what they've been doing, working closely with the universities. Another company local to. He builds exercise equipment. Dwayne Rock Johnson is a big customer of theirs. Ergonomically designed fitness equipment. Really neat. The struggle with the company is they can't get skilled welders. They have the engineers, but they don't have the welders, and there's no welders for miles. So that's their struggle. Is we've been focusing so much on all the bigger jobs that we forgot the middle part. So now what do we do? And so that was an interesting need. And another thing about Franklin, Franklin, Pennsylvania, they started the first well in that community. First well in America. And there's a little tribe there. Reminded me of Aneth, Utah. And they have a really neat historical museum. It's a really publicly used park and everything. So it was an awesome experience. Brought back some ideas, and that's, I think, will be something I'll work with Mac on building on. But that's just my share for today. We do have an upcoming Criminal Justice Coordinating Council meeting this Friday. We have prepared a finalized Criminal Justice Coordinating Council priority list that we would like to submit to all of the associations who help support all counties, and asking the legislature for specific needs of each of the 29 counties in Utah, and we're part of that. I think for the most part, one of the things that we've been talking about is just coordinating together within our county, being able to communicate better. We did mention we need legislature support to open up some of the spots in the council and offer it to the Navajo Nation. I think if it can be more formalized at the upper level, offering a seat to maybe the Navajo Nation, it's not Criminal Justice Committee, that they're the Law and Order Committee, a representative to be part of our committee, that would be very valuable. As well as some other spots that we may have in the county, so that we have seats available from the county to the nation and have more tribal voice incorporated into our planning and discussions. But we're finalizing that list, and we're very excited we'll probably present that next month. I'll share some of that. And that's all. I'll keep my comments short. But that's my report for you, Commissioners. I think that concludes our commission report. So we'll move on to our final item, which is executive session. So,
Make a motion that we enter executive section.
okay, and it looks like Larry's online with us. Thank you, Larry, for joining us. He's took off. Motion by Commissioner Stubbs to move into executive session. I'll go ahead and second that motion. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor to